Is that supposed to be Kitty Kitty's dad?
Maybe.
As the name suggests, the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy occurred at Hope's Peak Academy.
Definitely have him in the background at least.
Oh!
Danganronpa.
Hello everyone and welcome back to 4 Pixels. Tokun Kanetsu here and we are continuing Danganronpa 2. Oh, we have returned to the not so lovely Hope's Peak Academy.
I thought she was gone.
I thought I was free! So, what are we gonna do? Can we start already?
What are we even looking for? Do we just have to investigate this weird-ass building?
Even so, I don't think we'll find the answers to all our questions inside this damn building. Well, I'll just go on ahead for now.
I mean, there's like 3 doors total you can look through right now. Hey, you're already going?
What is that idiot thinking, running ahead without being cautious?
She obviously isn't thinking about anything. It will be fine. There will no longer be any situations where we must exchange each other's lives. So we should do our best as well. Like they say, it is not scary if everyone stops at a green light. If we stopped at the green light, we'd never reach our goal.
Akane already took off on her own. It might be faster if we split up and look around too. Like Sonia said, if there's no more killing, we don't have to worry about anyone betraying us anymore.
Then let's get this over with and go home.
I'll go on ahead. I'll see you guys later.
With those brief words, Fuyuhiko left the gymnasium. I shall do my best to obtain a wonderful clue that will be useful to everyone. Now then, please excuse me. Sonia took a deep bow, then left the gymnasium. Miss Sonia! Miss Sonia! Please don't leave me! I'll be in danger if I'm left alone! Kazuichi chased after Sonia, who had just departed and left the gymnasium. I should hurry and start too. Just a bit more. Just a bit more, and it's going to end. I can escape this nightmare and return to my usual, peaceful, everyday life. The only thing we can do is advance toward that hope. Even though I don't understand, and that a lot of horrifying things keep happening. For the sake of everyone who couldn't make it this far, I'm definitely going to go home. Investigate.
Oh, hello.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, that's weird.
Huh? That's weird. This is the hallway I walked through to get to the gymnasium, but it's clearly different. Is this Monokuma's doing too? Is he trying to confuse us again? I don't know how he's doing it, but he keeps doing it over and over again. He's so persistent. But I'm not gonna fall for his trap. There's no way this will make me back down. This hallway, there is a strange feeling to it, no? As if an invisible wall has been erected to limit our movement.
You okay there, Sonia? Your eye was kind of spinning.
Is it just me?
This was the floor that had the weird room in it.
The weird room.
The weird room.
Is this a dojo? It's full of strange things that make me think there's no way we're inside a school. Perhaps it's a mistake to expect the inside of this building to make sense. It's armor and a helmet. Did the map developers design this to reflect a Japanese dojo? What is this? Is this a manga? The title is... Manga for Morons! A History of Hope's Peak Academy by Monokuma.
Written for morons by moron.
Why is a manga with such a suspicious looking title laying out in the open like this? Let's start with history first, class! Reading manga is the third best way to learn about history. Then what's the first, you ask? That depends on the person. So just as I thought, Monokuma made this. That totally explains how suspicious it looks. I really want to just ignore it, but there's no way I can do that. Fine, I'll look at it. I'll look at anything that might be a clue to getting out of here, no matter what it is. I picked up the manga off the floor and started flipping through the page. It's an introduction to Hope's Peak Academy's history, as narrated by the cutesy character on the cover. The story begins with an introduction to Hope's Peak Academy. Hope's Peak Academy is... Wait, written by Monokuma. A government-funded school of privilege where only the most talented high school students can hope to attend. Built to raise hope in the nation's future, many of its alumni are key leaders of various new students are chosen through a scouting process, but the ones who scout Hope's Peak Academy's teachers, who serve as both educators and researchers of talent. Hope's Peak Academy isn't just a school for talent, it is also a school for researching talent as well. However, for the past few years, Hope's Peak Academy has been suffering from a decline in funding. If this persists, the Academy believes they will not be able to make progress with their research of talent. So they decided to implement a new system. The Reserve Department. Unlike the main department, who scouts for students, the Reserve Department utilizes a general entrance exam. Normal faculty was hired and placed in charge of looking after the Reserve Department. The expenses and exam fees for the Reserve Department are quite high compared to most high schools. Nevertheless, Hope's Peak Academy received an endless stream of applicants. Hope's Peak Academy was now available to talentless commoners, people who only cared about the brand. With this, Hope's Peak Academy managed to amass sizable funds and began further research of talent. To create Hope's Peak Academy's earnest wish, a true genius who would become mankind's hope. But just when they thought everything was going well, an unprecedented incident occurred. The incident that triggered the tragedy, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. That's right, it was the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. Hope's Peak Academy was crippled by this incident and was forced to shut down without accomplishing anything. The end. Huh? The ending was so sudden, like a manga that suddenly cancelled in the middle of its run. Plus, these phrases mentioned at the end of this manga. The tragedy. And the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. These names are so melodramatic. There's no way these incidents really happened, right? This manga only mentions the names, so I don't really know the details, but... No, it'd just be a waste of time to wonder about things that don't make sense. More importantly, I learned something because of this manga. The Reserve Department. That department was only built to collect money. I was one of those Reserve Corps students, right? That's weird. Oh, you're here again. The thing that's weird is you, of course. Huh? Why did you forget that you were part of the Reserve Department? The Future Foundation only took away your school life memories, right? But you should have known even before you entered that you had no talent, right? So, I think it's weird that you actually forgot something like that too. What do you want me to say? Based on my assumption. The Future Foundation must have wanted to hide the fact that you were one of those Reserve Corps students. Or you willingly sealed those memories yourself. Huh? You wanted to be confident in yourself, so you wanted to forget everything that embarrassed you. You know, when humans experience trauma, sometimes they erase their memory of what happened. It happens pretty often. Not that I'd know anything about that, though. Is that true?
I mean, I think it can go either way. I mean, it's kind of like post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's the thing. In which people, like, forget things in order to not be weighed down by them.
Oh. Are you saying it's my fault I forgot? That's not it. When things get inconvenient, you always get angry and try to brush it off. Well, that's expected of a Reserve Corps student. Damn it! What the heck? This cherry tree is in full bloom. It may be a tasteful sight to see a blooming cherry tree inside a dojo. But in this situation, it just looks bizarre. That target seems pretty far away. If the production team had had more time, there could have been a mini-game here. Wait, what am I...
Self-aware.
Because the game is literally breaking. There's a straw post. I guess that means it was used for training. There are a bunch of wooden lockers here. Each of them has a traditional-looking wood block key sticking out of them. I guess they're just for show. There's nothing in particular that looks like a clue. I can't see the big plan.
Oh, thank goodness.
This hallway, it's kinda creepy. I can't go to places that I should be able to go to. It's like some rule is being enforced for no reason. Almost like the invisible wall, okay? It's like there's an invisible wall or something.
Whoa, that's...
The more.
This was the room in which we saw all the blood, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Where we came out of. Violin. Oh, no, we have a group. Okay.
This is another manga. It's laying on top of the desk. This one is... Manga for Morons! The Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy, huh? Wasn't the Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy mentioned in that other manga too? It's why Hope's Peak Academy went bankrupt and... It was the trigger for the biggest, most tragic, most awful event in human history. If I read this manga, will I be able to learn a little more about that incident? I took the manga from the desk and started flipping through the pages. To see what I could learn about the event known as the Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. The story made heavy use of outdated, stylized drawings depicting character-solving mysteries. What's written here is... Is that supposed to be Kitty Kitty's dad?
Maybe.
As the name suggests, the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy occurred at Hope's Peak Academy.
Definitely have him in the background at least.
Oh! The key player in that event was a student named Izuru Kamakura. Izuru was a genius known as a symbol of hope. Hope's Peak Academy used all their resources to develop him.
Develop is a strange word to use.
Supposedly, Izuru was a genius among geniuses and possessed various talents. Wielding superior talent for the hope of mankind, the Academy referred to Izuru the ultimate hope. Komaeda, rises from the dead. No! To protect such rare talent, the Academy completely concealed all evidence of Izuru's origins and identity. Because of that, most of the students at the Academy were completely unaware of Izuru's existence. But Izuru, who was known as a symbol of hope, was responsible for a horrible incident. 13 students of Peak Academy Student Council, among the Academy's best and brightest, were brutally murdered by Izuru. However, the incident did not end there. The Academy tried to protect Izuru's superior talent and concealed the incident as though it never happened. However, a certain student began working in secret to use that incident to their advantage. That student uncovered what the Academy did, and by making that knowledge public, it stoked the fires of Reserve Corps students who had long been dissatisfied with how they'd been treated. And the uprising began. And that heralded Hope's Peak Academy's destruction. This is the entirety of the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. Eventually, that incident would lead to that horrifying, devastating incident. The incident that would be known as the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Works cited, Danganronpa 0. With a heavy sigh, I closed the manga. Am I supposed to believe this? There's no way 13 people were killed at Hope. What irony! For a genius known as the ultimate hope to cause such a gruesome incident. A talent like that is too regal for society. It's like trying to buy juice with the bar of gold. Oh, you should be lucky that you're incompetent. Damn it, he always has to lead up to something offensive. He seriously pisses me off. But ultimate hope. Nagito mentioned that before too, but it looks like it means something completely different here. When Nagito said it was the true meaning of hope. But for Izuru, hope simply means talent. More importantly, a genius who possesses various talents. I wish they'd given me one of those talents so I didn't have to be in the reserve department. That's right, the reserve department! Here. It said that the Reserve Corps students in the Reserve Department began uprising. Then what about me? Was I a participant too? No, that's not possible. There's no way. I have no reason to do something like that. I mean, you're pretty bitter.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing.
Anyway, I've learned about the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy, but the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history is a far worse incident, right? What kind of incident was it? And who is this other student that isn't Izuru? A certain student who secretly used the incident to their advantage. Who is that? This incident is really messed up, but all it's doing is raising more questions. The mysteries just keep piling up.
Uh-oh.
Bum, 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 bum. Oh! Until next, girls, 98 steps.
What do we have left?
Maybe go back to the morgue?
Ooh. Raw.
Raw. Well, they're not raw anymore.
They purified quite nicely.
What the hell is with this room? It's freaking cold in here. It's like I'm in a freezer or something. If I just stand still, I might end up freezing to death. I should hurry up and investigate so I can get out of here already.
Like, the moment I open up and see that, that's when you want to, like, put a shoe between the door and the wall.
What?
Like, I see this and I just get paranoid about, like, the door closing and locking behind me.
Oh god!
Yeah.
To actually freeze to death.
That would be one of the worst ways to go.
He's got some tarps. This looks like a plastic tarp. Why is this left out like this? Clean up after yourselves, will you?
You don't want to go opening it. Okay, okay. Wasn't
Look under
showing.
the desk. Look under the desk.
Under the desk? Oh, oh!
I've seen this in movies before. It's a refrigerator for preserving dead bodies. At least that's what it looks like, but that's not possible, right? Keeping dead bodies in a high school biolab isn't something you should joke about. It just feels so forced. This idea should have been cancelled during development or something. What am I thinking?
hiding, you little fucker.
Yeah. There's another manga just lying around here. This time the title is Manga for Morons, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history? I knew it. The next one will obviously be about this incident. The biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history, huh?
Or bemammutet either, as some say.
Just what was that incident really all about? It might turn out to be something lame. Let me stand in this freezer while I read. I flipped through the pages of the manga and hoped that I was right. A story about creepily drawn characters who get involved in such horrifying incidents. An incident known as the incident. Is this drawn so grotesquely because the incident itself is that grotesque? Anyway, the beginning of this creepy manga starts with this sentence. The tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy was simply the trigger. At first, the uprising by the Reserve Corps students that triggered the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy was initially hoped to be resolved quickly, but the situation continued to escalate to dangerous extreme. The movement started spreading all over the internet and fostered a thriving online community. Oh no, 4chan got a hold of it. The community was not limited to students, and people of various races and nations began joining in. But the movement was not confined to the internet and began spreading and eroding the real world. When the movement started, it was indistinguishable from any other demonstration inspired by social unrest. But as it spread across the world, certain abnormalities soon came to light. By then it was too late. The ends and the means had vanished, and wanton destruction became their only goal. The strong butchered the weak. The weak killed the weakest among them. And soon the weak formed factions to brutally murder the strong. As the violence and death continued to spread, the shock of their actions began to disappear. As if the era was regressing to more uncivilized times when senseless deaths were the norm. The media was oversaturated with deaths to the point where people would watch them while enjoying a meal. By the time the world realized what it had become, it was too late to stop what had happened. A feeling of immense despair began spreading and eventually engulfed the world. Acts of terrorism and coups d'etats began occurring around the world, a war waged in the name of despair. A war fought not for principles, religion, or personal gain. Just war. Pure war. And because of that, there was no way to resolve it. How could a movement started by high school students progress to such a hopeless scenario? The only explanation is the existence of a certain organization devoted to a certain student who influenced Hope's Peak Academy. A group called Ultimate Despair. Instead of using Hope's Peak Academy's talents for the sake of mankind's hope, they used them for the sake of mankind's despair. Key members of society used their influence to brainwash the masses in order to spread despair. Tech-savvy computer programmers wrote software to spread despair. The powerful and influential created new values and mores to spread despair. And with this, they created the tragedy. The tragedy. I'm not reading that. As long as ultimate despair exists, the despair engulfing the world will never end. The tragedy will never end. My heart was racing in my chest, but my body felt ice cold.
I wonder why.
And it wasn't because I was freezing in this room.
You sure?
The tragedy. This is definitely all made up. I mean, if this really is true, then what's happening in the outside world? My family, my friends, the convenience store I frequent, the nearby bookstore, my favorite restaurant. What's happened to them?
And with that, we will end this episode right here. Thank you guys for joining us, and see you next time.
Despair!
Ow. Figured the old lady would pay with kingly coin for rumors like that. So all there is to it. You satisfied, love? Please be satisfied so I don't need to do this voice anymore. My dear friend, this isn't even half of the story I wanted to hear. You better get to the more juicy stuff right away. Cinders, why? Hello everyone and welcome back to 4 Pixels. Coco is here continuing the visual novel Cinders. Very well. See, I knew we would come to an agreement sooner or later.